Thank you very much. Senator Rubio.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen, for appearing here before us today. Before I ask my question, just want to kind of lay out how important this issue is for Florida from an economic standpoint. I'm sure you're both aware of it. And I know Senator Nelson will be back in a minute. He'll talk about this as well. But from Florida, this is almost a $13 billion a year industry, and more than half of that is in the recreational fishing endeavor. In fact, we've got over about 131,000 jobs in Florida that are built on the recreational fishing. And I think there's two starting points for my question, and I think we all agree on. The first is the sustainable fisheries. That is a goal we all share, and in fact, I don't think anyone has a bigger stake in that than the fishermen themselves. And the second is that in order to have a good management plan, we have to have good data, and that the decisions that are being made have to be driven by the data. And of course, that number three, that data has to be used effectively. What we can't afford to do is arbitrarily shut down fishing based on incomplete or insufficient data for a lot of different reasons. First of all, the economic impact of it is absolutely devastating. Last year when I traveled the state, I was campaigning at the time, and I ran into people who were being wiped out by not just some of these restrictions that have been put in place, but they also got hit with an oil spill in parts of our state, which was a double whammy, and it was just devastating for many of these folks that couldn't get going again, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to get going this year. The second is that it undermines the legitimacy of these laws when it's not based on data that people believe in or that they can see. It undermines the legitimacy of the law. It undermines the agencies that are trying to implement the law. And I would add that one of the things that it does is it creates this rift, this fight between two parties that I think have the same interest in mind, and that's protecting the stock. But it creates this fight between them that again is driven by the fact that they know that these decisions aren't being made on data that's accurate because it's not being shown to them. So obviously I think data as far as the Florida perspective and probably the national perspective is critical to all of this, and that's why I'm puzzled as I looked at some of this. It appears the administration's transferred about $6 million from the cooperative research program to the national catch share program, and then it transferred another $11.4 million from the Fisheries Research and Management program to the catch share program. And my question is data a priority, data collection, accuracy of the data a priority? And if it is, why isn't it being reflected, at least in my mind, based on what I'm reading, on the way we're funding some of these programs?
Thank you, Senator. Data is a priority. There are several elements to that. Obviously, biological data is a big part of that question. Catch and effort data are a big part of the question in the recreational industry as well as in the commercial and the for-hire sectors. So those are a priority. Those have been reflected, I think, substantially in a number of our actions. In 2010, we had an increase in our stock assessment line item of approximately $10 million. Because of the particular concerns in the Southeast, we did dedicate approximately half of that increase to the southeastern part of the country to deal with some of the particular data poor challenges down there. As I indicated in my opening statement, the President's budget for fiscal year 12 does propose another $15 million increase in stock assessment data. At the same time, we do have to take steps to improve some, for the long term, of our management approaches, and we see investment in catch share line item as a way to, over the long term, improve the efficiency of our management efforts, vest more authority in the hands of the fishermen to make day-to-day management decisions, thereby over the longer term freeing up more resources within the agency to focus on not only these stock-specific data challenges that we face now, but some of the broader challenges that we face in years ahead going forward. Also, the last thing I would note is that we do obviously derive significant amount of data from the increased observer and monitoring coverage that is associated with catch share-based systems, and that data does then feed right back into the management decision-making process.
But if I may, we have some fisheries, particularly in the recreational realm, that we have very poor data on, and some that we've had no assessments done on whatsoever. Has there been ever any consideration or thought that maybe we shouldn't be putting limits on these fisheries until we actually know what we're basing it on?
So there are obviously a range of challenges that we face there. Some of those that deal specifically with data-poor circumstances, or one that, frankly, from a science perspective, we've been placing a great bit of attention on in recent months and even years. And if it's okay with you, Senator, I would defer to Doug DeMaster to say a few words about some of those efforts.
I'm Doug DeMaster. I'm the director of the Alaska Fisheries Science Center from Juneau, Alaska. I'm the acting chief scientist for National Marine Fisheries Service. The question about data-poor stocks is an important one. There's been considerable effort at our national stock assessment workshops to address this. We've worked specifically with the SSCs in South Atlantic and in the Gulf Coast. We have 4 kind of specific approaches that we want to test in terms of computer simulations to see how well they perform. But I should start out by saying that when you're trying to manage a fishery on catch or landing data alone, you're in a risky position. All of the history we have and our experience suggests that catch data alone, it's very difficult to manage fisheries properly. That being said, if you have assessment scientists who have some sense of the status of the stock, are they depleted or not depleted? Are they productive or not productive? Are they long-lived or not? Those are the features that go in, or some of the assumptions that are made in using these catch-only assessments for data-poor stocks. So we are developing those. We recognize in the South Atlantic and in the Gulf we need to improve our throughput in terms of stock assessments. So certainly considerable effort is going to be put into trying to increase the number of assessments